Okay, so I have to admit, uh, when I pulled the source material out of the stack today for this deep dive, I actually laughed out loud.
Really? I mean, it's definitely an interesting title.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It literally says, what a boarder can learn from Michael Jordan.
Right.
And my immediate thought was like, are we seriously suggesting that to survive a boarding school, you need a 40-inch vertical leap?
It does sound a bit intense, doesn't it? Like you need to
Yeah.
be dunking from the free throw line just to get through breakfast roll call.
Exactly. I'm picturing a year 9 student trying to, fade away shoot their laundry into the basket.
Which would be impressive, to be fair.
It would be.
Yeah.
But then I actually started reading the document, and, well, I stopped laughing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because this isn't really about basketball, is it?
Not at all, no. I mean, basketball's the vehicle, sure. But what this source is actually doing is surprisingly sophisticated.
Yeah.
It's taking the psychology of arguably the most hyper-competitive, successful athlete in modern history, and it's overlaying it onto the specific high-pressure ecosystem of a boarding house.
And that ecosystem is entirely unique. I think people who haven't actually lived in a boarding environment kind of struggle to get it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a completely different world.
It's a fishbowl. You don't just go to school, right? You wake up there, you eat there, you study there.
And you sleep there. That is the absolute key difference.
Right.
Like, because in a day school, if you have a terrible day, you go home.
Yeah, you escape.
Exactly. You reset. You have a sanctuary away from the drama. But in boarding, you are living with your audience 24/7. If you fail, you are failing in public.
Always an audience.
And that's why this comparison to Jordan that the source makes is so interesting. Because Jordan didn't just win. He lived his entire professional life under a microscope.
So the premise we're unpacking today is that the Michael Jordan mindset isn't just a guide for winning NBA championships. It's actually a survival blueprint for living away from home.
Precisely. The document frames it as a blueprint for navigating, academic pressure, social hierarchies, and that overwhelming feeling that everyone is constantly watching what you do.
Okay, well, let's get right into the first big section of this.
Right.
Because it tackles something that I think terrifies, honestly, every single student.
Failure.
Failure, yes. But the source material doesn't just give us those usual, hang in there, don't give up platitudes.
No, it does.
It starts with a pretty massive reality check about Jordan's career that, frankly, I think popular culture has conveniently forgotten.
Oh, we definitely have. We look at the sneakers and the 6 rings and the global icon status. We completely forget the struggle.
Right.
The text explicitly highlights that famous story. Jordan was cut from his high school varsity basketball team as a sophomore.
Just imagine that for a second.
Yeah.
You are 15 years old. You probably think you're the absolute best player in the school.
No, you definitely do at that age.
And then the list goes up on the gym wall, and your name just isn't on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
In a high school context, that is not just a setback. That is social death.
It's total humiliation. The story goes that he went home and cried in his room. And the source uses this specific detail to essentially dismantle the myth of perfection.
Which is so prevalent today.
Right. It points out that Jordan missed over 9,000 shots in his career. 9,000! He lost almost 300 games.
Wow.
The text is basically grabbing the boarder by the shoulders and saying, look, you think success is a straight line pointing up and to the right? It's not. It's a jagged, unpredictable mess of failures.
Okay, but here is where I want to push back a little bit on behalf of the listener.
Go for it.
It is really easy to read a document that says Jordan failed, so it's okay if you fail. But when you are actually a student and you completely bomb a chemistry test,
Oh, yeah.
or you don't get picked for the first XD rugby team, or you miss out on that prefect role you desperately wanted,
It hurts.
it feels catastrophic. It doesn't feel like a helpful step on the journey. It feels like the end of the world. Does the text actually offer a practical way to handle the raw emotion of that?
That is the crucial question, and the text does something really smart here to address that exact feeling.
Okay, what does it say?
It introduces this core concept. A setback is feedback, not a full stop.
A setback is feedback.
Okay.
Unpack that for us.
Think about a scientist in a lab, right? If they mix 2 chemicals together and the reaction doesn't happen the way they predicted, they don't sit on the floor and cry.
Hopefully not.
They don't say, I'm a terrible person, I shouldn't be a scientist. They just say, okay, well, that didn't work. Note the data down, let's change a variable and try again.
I see.
The source is arguing that Jordan treated his basketball career exactly like a scientist in a lab.
So he essentially stripped the emotion out of the failure.
He trained himself to do that, yes. When he lost, he didn't just wallow in misery, he rigorously analyzed why he lost. And the text applies this directly to the boarding context for you.
How so?
It says, point blank, you will fail tests, you will miss opportunities, you will have days where absolutely nothing seems to go right.
It just states it as a fact of life.
Exactly. It acknowledges the brutal reality, but it urges you to stop treating a bad grade or a bad day as a permanent character judgment.
That's the really hard part, though, isn't it? Separating the event of I failed from the identity of I am a failure.
That is the hardest part of growing up. But the source is very clear. It says a bad exam result does not define you. It informs you.
It informs you. I really like that distinction. So if I get, say, a D on an English essay, it's not the teacher telling me I'm stupid.
Right.
It's the paper telling me you don't fully understand paragraph structure yet.
Correct. And that word yet is incredibly powerful. The text emphasizes that Jordan didn't become the greatest because he magically avoided failure.
Right, because he failed all the time.
Exactly. He became the greatest because he processed his failures faster than anyone else. He took the emotional sting out, looked at the data, and went straight back to the gym.
Which perfectly brings it to the gym. Or I guess in the case of a boarder, the library or the prep room.
The prep room, yeah.
Because the entire next section of this source material is focused on the talent versus effort equation. And I feel like this is where the rubber really hits the road for anyone listening.
This is definitely the unglamorous part because everyone loves the highlight reel, right? Nobody wants to watch the grainy footage of the 5 a.m. sprint sessions.
No, they don't. The text has a specific quote here that stood out to me. Talent helps. Effort lasts.
That's a great line.
And I have to be completely honest here. I was the kid in high school who absolutely relied on talent.
Oh, were you?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I coasted. I did the reading homework 5 minutes before the teacher walked into the class.
We all knew that kid.
Yeah, that was me. And the source seems to be suggesting that if you try that strategy in a modern boarding environment, it eventually implodes.
It almost always does. Because boarding is a marathon, not a sprint. You can maybe sprint on raw talent for a term, maybe a whole year if you're really lucky.
But it catches up to you.
It does. And the text makes a really astute point about the daily grind. It notes that Jordan didn't just show up to the big games with the bright lights. He showed up to practice when he was exhausted, when he was sick, when he frankly didn't want to be there at all.
The document actually lists some very specific examples of what this Jordan effort looks like for a student in a boarding house, and they are painfully real.
They really hit home.
It's not about doing a backflip or something crazy. It lists things like simply preparing properly, even when tired.
Which, let's be real, is the reality of every single night in a boarding house. You've had a full day of classes, then afternoon sports, then dinner, maybe a house meeting.
You're wiped out.
It's 7:30 p.m. You are completely exhausted. The easy thing to do, the talented kid thing to do, is to just skim the reading material and go hang out with your friends in the common room.
Right, or just sit at your desk scrolling on your phone, pretending to work.
Exactly. But the Jordan mindset, according to this text, is having the discipline to do the actual work when your motivation is sitting at absolute zero.
Yeah.
It specifically mentions turning up to prep consistently and trying again immediately after a disappointment. And my favorite one, choosing progress over excuses.
Choosing progress over excuses. Now that is a tough pill to swallow, because living in a boarding house, you are handed infinite valid excuses.
Infinite.
You can say, oh, the dorm was too loud to study, or my roommate kept talking to me, or I was feeling really homesick today.
And we should be clear, those are entirely valid feelings.
Definitely.
But the text is arguing that they are still excuses. The source is challenging you as the boarder to take total ownership. And there's a specific parallel here to Jordan's career that I think is vital to understand this point.
Was this about the Jordan rules?
Yes, exactly. Do you remember the Detroit Pistons era?
Oh yeah, the bad boys, when they used to just physically beat him up on the court.
Exactly. Early in his career, Jordan just kept losing to the Pistons in the playoffs because they were physically stronger than him. They quite literally bullied him out of the games.
Right.
Now, he could have easily made excuses. He could have gone to the press and said the referees are being unfair, or they're playing dirty basketball.
Which, to be fair, they absolutely were playing dirty.
They were. It was brutal. But Jordan realized that making valid excuses didn't win championships. So what did he do?
He hit the weights right.
He spent an entire summer locked in the gym, putting on 15 pounds of pure muscle just so he could physically take the hits. He changed his own body to overcome an external obstacle.
That is such a fantastic metaphor for boarding life.
Yeah.
The pistons in your life might be a math subject you absolutely hate, or a really strict daily schedule, or just the constant noise in the hallway outside your room.
Yes.
You can complain about those things forever, or you can build the mental muscle to handle them.
And that concept naturally leads us into the third section of the document, which I actually think is the most intellectually interesting part of the whole deep dive.
Yeah, the section called Comfort is the Enemy of Growth.
That's the one.
This part caught my eye immediately because it breaks down the difference between performing and improving. And I'll be honest, until I read this source, I don't think I fully realized those were two completely different actions.
Oh, they are drastically different. And confusing the two is a major trap that a lot of high-achieving young people fall into.
So let's break that down for the listener. What exactly does the text mean by performing?
Performing is all about looking good. It's about strictly sticking to the things you are already naturally good at so you can get the applause.
Okay.
So if you're naturally good at math, you just keep doing the math problems you already know how to solve. You get the A grade, you feel incredibly safe, and you look smart to everyone around you.
Right. But that sounds pretty good. I mean, who doesn't want to look smart?
It feels great in the short term, but the text argues it's completely stagnant. You aren't actually growing. Improving, on the other hand, usually involves looking quite bad. It means trying a brand new study technique that feels totally awkward and slow. It means raising your hand in a physics class where you actually don't know the answer and might get it wrong in front of your friends.
So it's about actively stepping into the discomfort zone.
Exactly. The text explicitly mentions Jordan accepting coaching and actively working on his weaknesses.
Just think about the sheer humility required for that. You are universally recognized as the best player on earth, and you still have to let a coach pull you aside and tell you what you're doing wrong.
And this connects to a really specific boarding school pain point that the text brings up. It talks about the absolute necessity of listening to feedback from staff.
Oh boy.
Now, be honest. When you were a student and a housemaster or a strict teacher pulled you up on something, maybe your uniform was messy or your behavior in the dining hall was out of line, what was your immediate instinct?
Oh, total defense mode. Shields up immediately. My brain would just go, why are you picking on me? It wasn't my fault. My roommate did it too. You just don't like me.
Right. It is incredibly difficult for a teenager, or an adult for that matter, to view criticism as a gift.
It really is.
But the source is arguing that if you genuinely want to adopt the Jordan mindset, you have to start viewing that strict teacher or that housemaster as your Phil Jackson.
As your championship coach.
Exactly. They aren't criticizing you just to ruin your day or hurt your feelings. They are trying to coach you. The text urges you to pause and ask, is there truth in what they are saying?
Right. Instead of just reacting to their tone of voice.
Yes. If you can make that mental switch from defend to learn, you will accelerate past everyone else around you.
Because everyone else is too busy making excuses while you're busy actually fixing the problem.
Precisely. But there is a massive psychological barrier to doing this consistently in a boarding house. And we touched on it briefly earlier. It's the intense social pressure.
Yeah, that brings us right to section 4. And man, this is the section that I think is going to resonate the most with anyone living this life right now. The trap of comparison.
It's a huge issue.
What text says, comparing yourself to others actively holds you back. Now, in the real adult world, you can sort of curate your life right. You can generally avoid the people who make you feel inadequate.
You just mute them on social media or don't invite them to dinner.
Exactly. But in a boarding house, you are literally brushing your teeth next to them every single morning.
You are. It is relentless 24/7 exposure to other people's highlight reels. You sit in assembly and see exactly who got the academic awards. You see who got the massive care package from home. You see who seems to just breeze through the exact same prep work while you are completely drowning in it.
The source rightly calls this out as a major driver of anxiety.
It's toxic.
It really is. You inevitably start thinking, why am I not like them? What is wrong with me?
And the source reminds us of 3 fundamental truths to combat this. It says everyone develops at different speeds, strengths vary wildly from person to person, and no 2 journeys are identical.
Which is logically very true, but emotionally, it is incredibly hard to accept when you're in the thick of it.
It is hard, but again, look at the Jordan example. He competed fiercely. Yes, he wanted to beat absolutely everyone on the court. But the text notes a crucial difference. He focused all his energy on improving his own game.
Right.
He wasn't obsessing over trying to be Magic Johnson. He wasn't trying to copy Larry Bird. He was obsessively focused on maximizing Michael Jordan.
So if I'm a student right now, And my roommate just got straight A's and made the first team for soccer, and I'm currently struggling in both those areas. How do I actually apply this?
You have to change the metric of success. The text gives us the only comparison metric that actually matters, comparing yourself to who you were yesterday.
Comparing yourself to who you were yesterday.
Because that is the only thing you can actually control. Did I study for 10 minutes longer than I did yesterday? Did I handle that conflict in the common room better than I would have last week?
Yeah.
If the honest answer is yes, then you are winning. If you just sit there focusing on how great your roommate is, you are only feeding your own anxiety.
I really love that visual. It's like turning the camera around. Instead of constantly looking out at everyone else in the house, you just look purely at your own internal data.
And that naturally leads us into the grand synthesis of this whole document, the
Yeah.
Why This Matters section.
The bigger picture.
Right, because this document isn't actually just trying to help you pass your next history test. It's making a profound claim about what the boarding experience fundamentally is.
It calls the boarding house a training ground.
Yes, it frames boarding as a safe space to fail.
A safe space to fail. That's a surprisingly comforting phrase, isn't it?
It changes the whole perspective. Think about it. When you are 30 years old and you have a mortgage and a career and a family, the cost of failure is incredibly high.
It's devastating. You lose your job, you might lose your house.
Exactly. But when you are 15 or 16 living in a boarding school, the stakes feel like life or death, but in reality, you have a massive safety net underneath you.
That's true.
You have a whole team of staff whose entire job is to want you to win. You have peers. You have structure.
So the argument the source is making is basically make all your spectacular mistakes right now. Develop your armor while you have the net.
Exactly. The text argues that the resilience you build by navigating these specific boarding failures, the bad grades, the deep homesickness, the inevitable social drama, that is your actual education.
The actual education.
The math and the science are important, sure. But the resilience, that is what lasts far beyond school.
It explicitly says these are life skills, not just school skills. The ability to bounce back after a massive loss is going to be infinitely more valuable to you in 20 years than remembering the exact date of the Battle of Hastings.
Without a doubt. Jordan isn't an icon just because he never lost. He is an icon because he point blank refused to let losing stop him from trying again.
Right.
The source ultimately redefines success in this context. It says success is not about being perfect. It is about refusing to let failure stop you.
That is basically a permission slip, isn't it? It's the text giving you, the listener, total permission to be imperfect, to be messy, to struggle.
And so you should keep going.
Right. And the text wraps all this up with a very simple four-word to-do list. It's almost like a daily mantra you could write on your mirror. Try, learn, practice, keep going.
4 very simple words, but incredibly hard to actually live by day to day.
Very true.
Try means putting yourself out there when you're scared. Learn means taking that harsh staff feedback without letting your ego get in the way. Practice means doing the actual work when you are exhausted and just want to scroll on your phone.
And keep going means getting up when you inevitably get knocked down.
Exactly. If you can run that specific loop over and over again from year 7 all the way through to year 12, you are going to be completely unstoppable.
You won't just be a good student. You will be a formidable human being.
Absolutely.
Well, we have definitely covered a lot of ground today. We've gone all the way from the 40-inch vertical leap to the library prep room, from the Detroit Pistons to the house prefects.
It's been a journey.
It has. We've established that failure is just data, that consistent effort beats raw talent every time, and that comfort is basically where your dreams go to die.
And importantly, that the only person you should ever be competing with is the version of yourself that woke up yesterday morning.
I think that is an incredibly solid takeaway to wrap up on. Now, before we let you go back to your prep time or your sports practice or whatever you're doing, we always like to leave you with a little challenge.
A little homework.
Exactly. A provocative thought to just chew on for the rest of the day.
We've talked a lot about fear today. The fear of looking bad, the fear of failing, the fear of harsh criticism.
Yeah.
So here's the question for you. If you truly believed, like if you 100% accepted right now, that failure was just helpful feedback and not a reflection of your worth as a person, what is the one risk you have been actively avoiding in your boarding life that you would tackle tomorrow?
Oh, that is such a good question. Is it finally auditioning for the school play? Is it walking up and asking for help in a subject you're currently failing? Or is it simply sitting at a brand new table at lunch?
whatever that thing is,
Yeah.
identify it, and then just maybe go out and do it tomorrow. Not to necessarily succeed at it, but just to get the data on how to improve.
Be a scientist about it. Be like Mike. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
See you next time.